Today we have two reasons why we are having this buying opportunity. I really think they are not that important to us long-term Tesla stock investors. One has to do with Panasonic, which I will dive into later, but the other one has to do with the Model 3. The delivery estimate for rear-wheel drive Model 3 in China is now revised to 2 to 6 weeks from 6 to 9 weeks. The estimate for the long-range all-wheel drive model in China remains unchanged at 6 to 9 weeks. Now, in China, the most popular trims are rear-wheel drive trims, the cheaper ones, which is different from the US, where the most popular one is always the long-range all-wheel drive trim. Delivery estimates for the Model Y trims remain unchanged for now. The market may interpret this news as bad news, but I don't see anything bad here really, because before Tesla was really focused on export. So naturally, the delivery times would have been pushed. So while this is obviously not exactly great news, for the most part, all this tells me is that deliveries are basically starting now, and they are focused on delivering domestically within China instead of exporting the vehicles. This could be one reason why Tesla stock earlier today dropped. And while it is scary to hold Tesla stock for some people, the result in the end has been always the same, and that is Tesla saves the day, just like autopilot saved this person's life. Now, he was going really fast, but he would have probably gone this fast anyway, even without autopilot. And here, autopilot detected that there is a vehicle, and then it did this maneuver, saving the person's life, saving him from injury. And that was pure vision, no more radar. This update in China rendered radar on this Tesla obsolete. Mark my words, FSD will be solved with vision only, and it will be the approach that will scale the fastest. Also, if you look at historical expected delivery wait times, right now we are actually doing pretty well for the Model 3, 2 to 6 weeks compared to 1 to 4 weeks most of the year earlier. Also, remember that this vehicle is more expensive than the previous Model 3 for customers, but it's probably cheaper for Tesla to make. So there's room to cut the price here if we need to. Troy says that Tesla is making Model Y standard range rear-wheel drive vehicles in Fremont now. Deliveries have not started yet, but some buyers were assigned VIN numbers, and digit number 11 shows F for Fremont. Also, if you remember earlier this year, Tesla changed the Model 3 EPA rated range from 358 to 333, and that's because we now know Tesla changed its supplier from Panasonic North America to LG South Korea. Tesla offers legacy Model S and X owners an opportunity to upgrade their battery packs in Australia, but it's gonna cost them. For example, if you want to upgrade to 90 kilowatt hour battery pack, it's going to cost you $27,000, and you want a 100 kilowatt hour pack, it's going to cost you $45,000. But they will be able to still have free supercharging. Some good news here. Mexico now says that Tesla has federal and regional approval to basically start building. So it's all up to Tesla now to start building. The government has pretty much done everything it needed to do. But Elon Musk has made it pretty clear that Tesla is in no rush to build anything right now. From Drive Tesla Canada, a judge has ruled against Tesla's motion to dismiss a class action lawsuit regarding alleged defective door handles in certain Model S cars. The lawsuit, initiated by Florida resident John Urban, accuses Tesla of equipping its 2014 to 2016 Model S vehicles with faulty door handles that consistently malfunction after only a few years of regular usage. Yeah, there are problems with these door handles. We all know that. There's also a safety issue. If the door handles remain flush, then you can't really get in from the outside to the inside if you need to help the person on the inside. But in these cases, then you would just break the window. Tesla asked to have the lawsuit dismissed entirely, arguing that all the claims were baseless. However, this judge declined to grant Tesla's motion to dismiss the 4 California state law claims, indicating that the case had sufficient merit to proceed. I've been in a Model S multiple times before, and I never really liked the handles. I'm always a bit scared with these handles going back in while my hand is on the handle. It's probably not a rational fear, but it is there anyway. Tesla stock dropped earlier today, but Gary Black says we remain steadfast Tesla stock bulls going into Cybertruck launch on November 30th, and in front of the $7,500 EV tax credit going off invoice on January 1st. We expect Tesla China weekly insured registrations to rebound now that Model 3 Highland deliveries have begun. I'm not keeping my expectations super high for next week, but I'm keeping my expectations a bit higher for the end of the quarter. And I agree with James here. From the interior alone, the new Model 3 got ventilated seats, rear entertainment system, upgraded sound system, better performing main monitor, more comfortable rear seats, better acoustics, less road noise in the cabin, better harshness. That alone to me is a big deal. The current Model 3 suspension is a bit harsh. It's not terrible. It's not really bad, but I used to drive BMWs and Mercedes, and yeah, the Model 3 is just not that good in terms of suspension. You can go fast. It's good for that, but for comfort, it was a bit But now I think it should be pretty good. So just this stuff alone, James says, is probably worth at least $5,000 in value, and that should push demand up. I absolutely 100% agree with that. And the Tesla economist says, agreed. Now Tesla could spend 1/10 of that $500 per car on telling people. Let's give it a few weeks and let's see what the actual demand is for the refreshed Model 3. It should be noticeably higher. If it's not, it's only because people just don't really know about the better features. Tesla opened a new service center in China. Is this how they open each center in China? Looks pretty cool. This seems to be new. Even Sawyer did not know about this. For example, this will show you how much you will pay for charging if you drive, let's say, 100 miles a day. You can adjust this as much as you like, and then it'll also show you how much you save by not using gas. You can also change to any Tesla vehicle. This is pretty cool. Pretty useful, actually. I think they should change the default to monthly, though. The daily savings are not as impressive as the monthly savings. This is just a lot more impressive. You save $480 a month by driving a Model Y if you drive 140 miles a day. That's pretty cool. I like seeing these little things from Tesla. Panasonic supplies a lot of batteries to Tesla, so we want to pay close attention to what Panasonic does and says. Panasonic announced that it is slowing down its battery production amid weaker demand for electric vehicles, but it hints at demand from Tesla still being good on that front. Panasonic Holdings, which supplies Tesla, said on Monday it had cut automotive battery production in Japan in the September quarter and shrank the division's annual profit forecast by 15%. Underscoring a global slowdown in EV sales. They quoted rapidly reduced demand, but things are good for Tesla. Difficult times are actually good for industry leaders because during these times, they can still keep growing while everyone else basically stops and slows down and scales back. The leader can actually increase their market share. So while in the short term, this could put some more pressure on Tesla because supposedly the EV market is slowing down a little bit. In the long term, this is actually good for Tesla because it is much more difficult for new players to enter the EV space. Panasonic actually cut domestic output of automotive batteries by 60%. That's helped stabilize battery inventory levels, but those factories won't run at full capacity anytime soon. Which is, I think, one reason why Tesla stock is lower today. Martin, who is in charge of investment relations at Tesla, said that if we look at global EV sales in the first half of 2023 versus the second half of 2022, the market has seen the first sequential decline in a long time. Let's see what happens in the second half of this year. Rob Maurer says from Tesla Daily that it's interesting. The chasm between low volume losses and high volume profits is wide. Easy to approach it, which seems to be the growth we have seen so far hard to cross. And aren't we all glad that Tesla is already on the other side and pretty much no one is over there with Tesla? Some will say, oh, BYD is already there, but they don't publish exactly how much money they make only from pure battery electric vehicles. Why? I don't know. If they are impressive numbers, I think they would publish them. They still sell a lot of hybrids. However, I do think that BYD will make it. I think that BYD will make profit from pure battery electric vehicles. Gary says, while much has been made about the 2023 EV adoption pause, we expect 2024 EV adoption to re-accelerate. It doesn't really matter all that much to me because I'm not looking at just next year. I'm looking at what's going to happen in 2030, 31, 32, 33. I'm in this for the long term. Volkswagen may be looking to cut as many as 2,000 jobs at its software subsidiary Cariad. But here's what's a bit confusing, and this is why you don't want to be invested in companies like Volkswagen. They know they want to do it. They decided to already do it. But they are only going to do it between 2024 and 2025. Why? Well, one reason is, despite the approval of the plan by the board, it still requires the Works Council to give the go-ahead to be initiated. Current contracts guarantee jobs for workers until mid-2025. Things like this just don't happen at Tesla. Number one, because Tesla does not hire more people than it actually needs. Number two, Tesla knows really well how to do software, and hiring so many people for software is not a good idea, generally speaking. You just want the best of the best of the best of the best instead of many mediocre engineers. And look at what's being said here. We don't accept this method of cutting jobs across the board. There's no concrete information on where positions should be cut in terms of structure and tasks. One spokesperson for the Volkswagen Works Council said that transformation planning is in its final stages and will be communicated once the relevant bodies have passed a resolution. It seems like Volkswagen has a committee for a committee for a committee. That does not happen at Tesla. Things move fast. This vehicle from Huawei will go on pre-sale on November 9th. This car really reminds me of two vehicles, the refreshed Model 3 and the Porsche Taycan. Ford has increased the estimated amount of Tesla superchargers to the Blue Oval Charge network next year from 12,000 previously announced to more than 15,000. Tesla LFP battery supplier CATL has opened a new battery factory in China. The plant has 30 gigawatt hours of initial annual capacity. It's almost entirely automated and can produce 1 cell per second, so that every 2.5 minutes, one battery pack leaves the factory. The more batteries are on the market, the faster the battery prices will fall, and the faster the EV adoption will accelerate. So this is good news. While Panasonic is seemingly slowing down, CATL is not. Volkswagen teases its ID.7 all-electric wagon coming to Europe in 2024. Maybe the ID stands for no idea what we are doing. Yesterday, I played a few clips from an interview with an analyst that really likes Toyota. And he thinks that the only ones that will definitely survive are Tesla and Toyota. But AJ here says just how poorly Toyota has been run as a business becomes abundantly clear when looking at Toyota's cumulative total free cash flows over the last 10 fiscal years, which add up to a loss of 1.8 billion United States dollars. To illustrate how absurd that number is, let's look at Tesla, which delivered during the same time period $8.8 billion, which is a delta of 10.6 billion. And the crazy part about all of that is it includes Tesla's startup phase where Tesla burned so much money. Now, of course, the guy that has been running Toyota for more than a decade, well, you know, the reason why he's running it has nothing to do with his last name being Toyota. It's all merit-based, of course. Maybe. Probably not. Maybe it is. One of the best decisions that Toyota has made in the last 15 years was to invest in Tesla in 2010. One of the worst decisions that Toyota has made in the last 15 years was to pull out from this partnership with Tesla. Tesla leaks new Model S sport seats for the Plaid version. Nothing really too special here, but it's pretty cool. The biggest markets for Tesla are China, US and Europe. But how about the rest of the world? Well, Japan, for example, is still a tiny market, although Japan's economy and the car market is gigantic. But here's overall how all of the sales look for Tesla. And a Tesla bear complains about these sales. He says, with the exception of Turkey, the rest of the world doesn't look very strong for Tesla sales when looking all the way back to early 2022. But I think there's an important point that's being missed here. About 9,500 and 27,000, a big jump, 25,000, 24, 33,000, and now 38,500. We have to remember that Tesla basically finished going through the whole backlog somewhere around here. So every single delivery later is basically a new order that has been generated. It's not coming from a backlog that has been around for a while. And you cannot look at this number right here because that's when Giga Shanghai was shut down. So be extra careful when you listen to Tesla bears, because sometimes they say things that on the surface make sense, but then you start thinking, you start looking at the details, and yeah, they don't make sense anymore. What I see overall is huge growth. And sure, you can say, oh, this one market is doing better than other markets, but one market doesn't matter. What matters is how are we doing overall, and overall we are doing great here. There's a change that's going to happen in 2024 that will allow us to track Tesla vehicles and trims a little bit easier. We will be able to tell whether a model has LFP batteries or not, because it will actually be included in the VIN number. This will make it a bit easier to track Tesla's average selling prices. Community notes on X are my favorite feature by far. Elon gave us a quick update here. It's worth noting that any attempts to weaponize community notes to demonetize people will be immediately obvious because all code and data is open source. He's talking about how if you make a post that gets a community note, will make it ineligible for being monetized. But then someone complains here that it is strange that the listing and throttling of accounts isn't open source, but Elon replies to that. He says that has already begun and should be fully transparent by the end of the year. I really like that. There are so many hidden layers to the system, some of which we are still discovering. Most of the reach reduction is suboptimal code rather than malice. Here's a good example of a community note. This guy posted that coal-powered electric cars are helping liberals pretend they are solving a make-believe crisis. And here's the community note. Coal generated about 19.5% of the electricity at utility-scale facilities in the United States in 2022, down from 51% in 2001. An electric car is cleaner each day. Here's another sign that the car market is not doing great. This is interest over time, meaning how often do people search this keyword, give car back? It is at an all-time high currently. Here are some thoughts on the new Model 3 from a first-time EV owner. He's never sat in or driven a Tesla before. You get used to driving without stalks in about an hour. Initially, roundabouts may feel a bit awkward. However, after using it for a bit, you know where the buttons are, so that's good. The steering wheel buttons themselves are very tactile and feel close to normal buttons. Shifting is absolutely no problem using the screen. I actually prefer it over stocks, but this might be subjective. He doesn't like that there are no ultrasonic sensors which help you park, so he doesn't like that, but over time that should improve. The quality of the interior is very solid. It, of course, isn't Rolls-Royce quality, but it's perfectly fitting for the price range, which is different from what we used to hear years ago. Oh, Tesla's interior is not that good for the price you pay. Now we are hearing the opposite of that. Is actually pretty good. The ambient light does not reflect on the front window. That was a concern, so that's good. The car is a lot of fun to drive, but also very comfortable for everyone inside. The sound isolation is very good, and there is little road noise. The suspension is great, and he said that it's about medium to soft in stiffness. Overall, pretty positive. He finishes by saying that he's very happy with the purchase, but there are some improvements that could be made, but luckily they are mostly software related. BYD posted its earnings and seems like they are doing all right. There are some screenshots that are going around the pricing of the Cybertruck, but some are clearly fake. For example, Bearded Tesla X account is debunking this screenshot here. His analysis is pretty detailed. He gives comparisons from the previous order format. One thing that is clear is that there will be a lot of noise until we have the actual official specs from Tesla. If the price is substantially higher than expected, I think it's still alright because Tesla will clearly be able to lower the cost as it scales the Cybertruck. Tesla is taking advantage of the ability to send messages directly to owners in their cars, this time to let them know about the free supercharging transfer offer. So if you have an older Tesla vehicle with unlimited supercharging, you can get a new one and still keep your unlimited supercharging. And they are actually letting you transfer that to a Model Y, not just a Model S or X. Ugly price cuts for an ugly vehicle? I'm not a fan of this vehicle. The bag just looks, I don't know, the whole thing is just a bit weird. Maybe some people love it. I really don't like how this vehicle looks. Do you like it? I don't like it, but anyway, they cut the prices. And here's another clip from an interview that Herbert did that Alexandra called a video of the year, basically.
I do not like it when companies diversify. I do not like it when they have their hands in multiple pies. I have seen car companies try to do this since the 1980s, and invariably it does not work. At one point, Chrysler owned Gulfstream Jet, on the theory that transportation is somehow their business. GM made all kinds of unrelated investments, which usually worked out as investments. They bought Hughes Electronics and EDS. They bought a lot of other businesses, and financially it made sense. They made some money on them, but it really diluted the focus of the company on the core issue of making cars and trucks that people want to buy with a sufficient profit margin to reward shareholders. So I'm always leery of companies that get involved in too many things at once, because this is a very, very tough business. The broader issue on Tesla, I would sum up kind of the way we began the conversation, which is when you own Tesla, you own two things. The first is an EV company, electric vehicle company, that has to get from where it is today to a larger level of scale. They have to compete in order to do that. They have to do whatever it takes to get to the end point of being an important electric vehicle manufacturer and producer over the next 5 to 10 years. So they've got to keep riding the growth curve, holding on to whatever market share they can, increasing their volume, and staying a relevant, highly important part of the EV industry. I don't have any worries about that. The profitability behind that effort, I wonder about. It may not affect the stock price, but I think it's an important thing to think about. The second part of it, however, which is much more important, and this is super critical. When you own Tesla, you own a call option on autonomous vehicle technology. That call option will either explode in value or decline to zero. And when you're making a bet on Tesla, you're making a bet that they do develop truly functioning autonomous vehicle technology. And frankly, I don't get really worried about whether or not that's going to happen in 2024 or 2025 or 2026, because they're clearly on the right path and they're developing a very useful version of the technology with the optical systems. So I don't worry so much about when it happens. I just want to see a steady progress towards that goal. And they should get there. If they can't get there, I'm not sure who can. So when you own Tesla, you own that call option. That is most of the value of the company. That's most of the value of your investment. And as long as you're confident that that's going to be successful, it's fine to hold on. The minute you waver, if you wake up in the middle of the night and think, oh my God, can they really do it? Then it's too risky a stock for you. So you have to have extremely high levels of confidence that'll work out, because otherwise the stock is worth less than it is today, but less than half of what it is today.
I disagree with that. I think Wall Street is not really valuing FSD at all. Some retail investors, of course, do see value in full self-driving, but I think the majority of investors do not see much value in full self-driving right now at this very moment. As Tesla gets closer to solving full self-driving, that will change. For example, we already saw one analyst, Wall Street analyst, put some value into his Tesla stock price target because of FSD, but it's not really substantial. I am talking about Tom. And there are still so many other things like energy and potentially Dojo, Tesla insurance, Tesla supercharging business, etc., 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 that will create substantial value for Tesla in the future, especially the energy business. If Tesla never solves full self-driving, I think the stock price will still be higher than there it is right now, 10 years from now. Substantially higher. I think it will outperform S&P 500, which is one reason why I stay so invested in Tesla stock, because if I wasn't, then I would be putting money in real estate, and the rest of the money that I'm not able to put in real estate because maybe I can't find good deals, I would put that into S&P 500. I am working on another exclusive video that will be posted on Patreon later today. For now, if you haven't finished watching this one, watch this one. By joining my Patreon, you will get access to how much I think it is fair to pay per Tesla share each year between 2023 and 2033. If you sign up for the investor tier of support, you will also get my valuation model of Tesla stock with a 45-minute video walkthrough. And YouTube says you should watch this video next, but if you haven't finished watching that discussion about the future with Elon Musk, watch this one first. My name is Matt Posius. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.